Shabbat Shalom Mishpacha. This is RSAHK. Now, I am kind of in the travels. I'm going to do this as a pre-recording prior to the Sabbath because I will be on travels on Friday evening, and I'll probably arrive in very early hours of the Sabbath morning. So therefore, it may not be possible for me to join you in the class or either send a recording on the day. So I decided to do a pre-recording, hence why I will be posting this to Rabbi Kefa so he can play it. Now, before we begin, our Shabbat this week is on Parsha Mattot, on the book of Numbers. But before we discuss any of that, I would want to give you a number of historical lessons, because I think it's important to understand where we are in history right now. Now, I don't know if you're aware that basically Sophia, let's call it a church for a minute. Sophia Church was a church 1500 years ago in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, a few days ago, there were events in Turkey that Tayyip Erdogan, he has said that the church will no longer be a church. Basically served as a museum since the early 20th century. It became a museum after the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, and there was, restrictions placed on the Ottoman Empire. There are certain things they could not do, like drill for oil. They could not use a seaport or port for tax collection and things like that when ships are passing through. Well, guess what? That certain treaty that was made in Europe comes to an end in about 3 years' time. So big changes are coming ahead, and Turkey has already announced that it will be converting the museum back to the mosque, and so the first prayers will be held in this mosque July 24. Now, prior to the Muslims acquiring this place, back in the days of the Crusades, this used to be a church held by Christians, and then it was captured by the Muslims, converted into a mosque. Then, in 1934, around about that area, it was basically converted into a museum. So, and now it's reverting back to a mosque, and the Muslims will be holding prayers in there for, my goodness, it's been nearly 100 years, I guess, since they held prayers in that place, or maybe more than 100 years. It's that 1500 years. So that's what will be happening. The other thing I found pretty interesting, which I'm not sure if you guys are aware, and I thought, well, it's kind of brotherhood thing, is that, there's a place in Boston that is co-shared. It's basically a church, and what the church does is the Muslims in the community in America, they ran out of room for a mosque. They were kind of like waiting outside. They had a very small mosque, I guess, in those days. So the church used their downstairs, I guess what you call the basement, and they gave it to the Muslims to conduct their prayers. And that tradition held. And then later down the road, the church, kind of made a bit more room and gave them the upstairs instead. And so today, Muslims actually hold prayers in the church. So the way they do it, from what I understand, is that when the Muslims go in on Fridays, they do their prayers on Fridays, and it's converted into like a little makeshift mosque area. And once the Muslims leave, the Christians go back in, and it turns into a makeshift Christian area. Now, apparently, this thing happens in New York as well, in one of the churches in New York. So I guess this is a way for this country, America, to kind of, at least for some of the Christians, they believe that this will allow us to, integrate the Muslim community with us, or at least share some kind of brotherhood. I guess, it's not a bad thing on the surface of it, but I will tell you this, that, similar things are not happening in the Muslim world, whereas the Muslim world maybe they do think about it, by the way, they do talk about it, but so far to date, no Muslim mosque has opened up its, area and said a group of Christians can come here and pray if they desire. That hasn't happened. Maybe it will happen in the future. Now, the other thing of interest that might be of interest to you is this, that you may be interested in knowing, and this is kind of fascinating, that one of your presidents, Barack Obama, he spent time in Karachi, Pakistan, as a youngster, which might be surprising to some of you, because Karachi is a city, big city in Pakistan. It's a metropolitan city, connects to a coastal line, and this is quite fascinating. Not just Barack Obama, but one of the other Indian prime ministers was born and lived there, and the present Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen to this. The present Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, his father, he worked and lived in Karachi before they migrated to Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu's grandfather, I should say grandfather or grandmother, the grave is still there in Karachi, in the graveyard. And that I found pretty fascinating. And I think I did speak about the fact that there was a Polish Jewish man who went to Pakistan through the British back in the 60s, and he happened to be the nuclear missile, he was the head of the missile department in Pakistan to produce the missiles. So this man, he was a Polish Jew. His name was, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it right, but his name was Władysław Joseph Marian Trowicz. Now, he was basically a pilot, started off as a Royal Air Force pilot in Pakistan from Poland, and he fought for Britain during the Second World War. Now, when he was no longer needed by the Allies in England, he was shipped off to Pakistan, and he is known as the godfather for Pakistan's missile and space program. They still have his statues over there. There's a museum there. He was an excellent engineer. He was an aeronautical astrophysics engineer, and of course a pilot as well. And he was an air commodore, and he headed up Pakistan's missile and space program. And only recently Pakistan has declassified this information, because nobody knew this. Like 10 years ago nobody knew this, but they declassified this information, and he's actually known as a national hero of Pakistan. And but nobody really knows that where this guy came from and how did he end up there. But he did end up there. He had a wife who lived there in Pakistan. She loved Pakistan. These people loved Pakistan. They lived there until he died. His wife was a educator, and it's kind of remarkable how this man did the training for the pilots over there, the space program and other things. Really, really a good man. And apart from that, I also learned that there was another Jewish man by the name of Dan. He was apparently one of the coaches of the cricket team, Pakistan cricket team at one time, and he taught them cricket. So all the so-called sentiment of anti-Jew, anti-Muslim aside, actually Pakistan has had great relations with Jewish community in Pakistan, and they had great relations with the Christian community in Pakistan as well. And this, as I'm telling you, that Benjamin Netanyahu's dad and their family lived in Karachi, and that may be a surprise to some, but there were some other influential families that lived there as well. But what happened, I think after the 1920, this is the area of when World War I was about to be happening, and then we had headed into World War II. The families, for whatever reason, they decided to shift and move out to Israel. And what I learned is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's family, they migrated to Israel during that time, his dad. And then, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu and his other family were you know that they have links to California as well. They had a home there as well. So there were other communities, Jewish communities over there that, you know, slowly migrated out, or some of them mixed in with the Muslim community that they no longer recognize as Jews. So I guess later down the road, you know, Pakistan and India split in 47, became two countries, and by that time, 1948, Israel was established, and these people had gone already. So they had a hand in the community over there, and, you know, it's no surprise that, I mean, I'm heading back into that country, which actually had a Jewish heritage of all. And this comes shocking because I saw the pictures of Benjamin Netanyahu's family. I saw the pictures of other Jewish families, and, you know, they look like, I mean, these guys look like me and you know, like they just look like us. So I was like, yeah, I mean, and so they should. And if you think they're going to have curly hair and locks, no, they don't have no locks and they don't have no curly hair. They actually have straight hair. The women have straight hair, and they look, you know, they look like Indian women. If you look at those pictures, and that community was living in Pakistan, which was, you know, in ancient times called India. They were living there for, my goodness, maybe 2,000 years, because Israel in the past had great relations with India as a nation, and they exchanged trade, and they exchanged other things. You know, a lot of things happen. And today, as you know, Israel today as well keeps close relationship with India. They sell them drones, they sell them missiles, and so on and so forth. So that's just a bit of tidbit of history. So now coming back to the lecture, what I'd like to say is, if we have a quick look at what actually happened, well, we'll come back to the Parsha in a second, but this is the third part of poverty consciousness. We know, I spent week 1 with poverty consciousness. I spent last Sabbath with poverty consciousness too. This is the third and probably the last part of poverty consciousness. Why are we spending so much time on poverty consciousness? The reason for that is that everything hinges upon poverty consciousness to be lifted. If we don't lift our poverty consciousness, we will never get our desires. And that will be a failure for many people who are struggling to, you know, make ends meet and do things that they desire to do. Because one of the things that holds them back is poverty consciousness. And one of the things I'm going to tell you, which is an interesting thing, and this is also what happens with poverty conscious people, is that many years ago, as a kid, I was sitting in my home, or in a home with my uncle, and my uncle was eating his food, and he, you know, after finishing his food, he left a little bit food in the plate. You know, some of the bread he was eating, he left it in there. And I said to him, I was, you know, sitting with him eating as well. And I said to him, I said, why are you leaving this in here? Why aren't you not finishing it? Because he could have easily finished it. And he gave me a principle. He said to me, he said that the reason why I do this, because it's for blessing. And, you know, I didn't quite understand at the time. I was fairly young. You know, I was probably in my teens. And maybe I was like 17, 18-year-old. Didn't really understand what he meant by that. So I started to do the same. You know, started to leave a bit of food in the plate. And what I learned later was, you know, years later, I picked up a Bible and I started reading, and I realized that God had said that do not glean the corners of your field. Leave it for the poor people, or the people who, wayfarers, or people who pass by. So I realized a big principle. So that is a principle that is taught in the Torah. And the principle was this, that you do not empty your plate. Because why don't we empty our plate? Because, you know, in England, as growing up part of my life in England, I learned that, hey, you must empty your plate. It's not good to leave your plate with food on it. But actually that's totally not true. Because that is actually totally the opposite of, that is what builds poverty consciousness. And you might be shocked and surprised, and I was shocked and surprised when I learned this, that actually reinforces poverty consciousness. Because what happens when you leave some food, then the tendency is, for instance, let's say if you had a sandwich and you only could eat half and you couldn't eat the other half, and the tendency for people is to store the other half and put it in the fridge and say, okay, I'll eat it later. And so what rich people do, what I see rich people doing, is they'll pick up they'll eat half the sandwich, and they will go and throw the other sandwich away into the garbage can, into the bin. And people would be like, hang on a minute, why are they throwing it in the garbage can? Because that's wasting food. But actually, if you think about it, they're not wasting food. That's actually a abundance consciousness. Because what they're doing is, although to other people it might be wastage, what they're doing is they are feeding the creatures lower level. Because when you throw away food, two things happen. Number one, you have the homeless people outside, and they will scour for food in garbage cans, and they might find that half sandwich there, and they'll eat it. Number one. Number two, maybe it's not them. Maybe that food goes onto a landfill and sits there, then birds will come and eat it. Insects will come and eat it. So that is the way, a biological way, that God actually feeds the insects, feeds the birds. And so normally what happens, one of the things that I've noticed that Muslim nations tend to do more than I've seen in Christian nations, is that when the food is left, when they leave food, they feed their birds. They'll throw it on their flat roofs, because the roofs in most Muslim countries are flat. You can walk on them. They've got these parapets, borders, so you don't fall off. So you can sleep on the roof, you can walk on it, and they will put food for birds on the roof. And they will, either feed their pets. If they have pets, guess what? They have rice, and they will feed their pet. And the pet will eat the rice. The pet will eat the bread. So, things that you kind of not even thinking about over here, because you might think, hey, how's a dog going to eat bread and rice? Guess what? I have a dog back home, and that dog eats rice, and that dog also eats bread as well. So what's left over is fed to the dog, and this is a common practice, but that's an abundance conscious practice. This is a practice that you need to really think about what you're doing, because here's what happens. I've seen people who might leave, I don't know, you got a whole plate, and maybe you leave a quarter of plate, and people have a tendency to say, oh, let me put that in the fridge. They'll put it in their little container, stick it in the fridge, and then it's left over there for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later you come back and say, oh, I got this little bit of food, let me eat it. That, by the way, is what I call poverty consciousness. That food that you left in the plate, that should have never gone into your fridge. That food should have gone to the birds, should have gone to the dog, should have gone to the cat, or whatever creature, not to the fridge. When you start doing things like this, all you're doing, remember I said, poverty is a brain disease. It's not a disease from God, it's a brain disease. You got to fix your brain. God's not going to come and fix your brain. You have to fix it. So one of the things that you're going to have to fix is leave food and feed it to the animals or the birds. Get into the habit of leaving some food in your plate and feed it to the birds or the animals. Get into that habit. Because if you don't, you're reinforcing your poverty conscious brain by doing the opposite of cleaning your plate. That's actually totally the opposite. So I would suggest that you reconsider that area of your life where you might be thinking, oh, I'm wasting food. Actually, you're not wasting food. You're actually feeding the creatures that God has created. And that brings the result, that brings in more blessings. And, it's a little bit drawn out. I could explain further, but actually it does bring blessings, because those creatures on the ground, those little tiny ants and those little tiny things that eat, you think that they may not be praising God. They actually are. They are thanking God for the food that they receive on the ground. And guess who that goes to? It goes right back to you, because you're the one who gave it. So the blessing returns right back to you. So consider that. Maybe what you want to do is in your yard, in your gardens, you want to put a little bird box, and you put your rice that's left over into the bird box. You put your little bread pieces that are left over into the bird box, so birds can come and eat it. That's a good idea to feed the birds. You may want to consider doing that, and this way you reinforce an abundant brain, not a poverty conscious brain. So get into the habit of doing that. Apart from that, what causes poverty consciousness is, let me explain to you what else causes poverty consciousness. Like I said the week before, hoarding stuff that you're holding for 20 years. Let's say you had a baby in your family. Let's say you as a woman gave birth to a child, your daughter, and now you bought your daughter a little, I don't know, cot, or maybe a bike, or maybe something else, and some play toy, and you put it in your garage. Now your daughter is grown up, or your son, and 20 years later, your son or daughter is gone on to the world and doing their own thing, but you're still holding on to that little toy, and it's still sitting in your garage, and you're thinking, maybe I'll sell it for money. That, by the way, is a poverty conscious brain. Never ever do that. If you're holding on to toys like that, unless they have sentimental value to you, I would give those toys away free. Never sell things like that. Never ever ever make the mistake of trying to sell them. I have known people who talk about selling things like that. That is a definite no. Don't do that, because that will only reinforce your poverty conscious brain, and that deception, that indulgence, that thing that you're thinking you're doing good, is actually doing you harm in the long run. It is creating lack, and lack is what drives poverty. So be very careful about how you think in that area, and there may be other areas that you need to think about as well. So, area of clothes. You may have many clothes in your drawer, in your wardrobe, and you may want to consider not selling those clothes, but giving them away to Oxfam or some thrift store, so that somebody else can benefit from them. Clothes that you don't wear, they're just sitting there, day in and day out, week in and week out. You have dresses and other things that you never use, they're just hanging in there, occupying space. What you want to do is pick those clothes up, pack them in a black bag, and take them down Oxfam or thrift store and hand them over for somebody else to wear. Don't think about, let me sell them in a second-hand store, or let me do this. No, that's again poverty conscious brain. See, your brain tries to deceive you. It tries to shortcut you. And the areas, as explained last week, was the neocortex areas of our brain, the left and the right hemispheres. They are the ones that will do that. And they will make sure that they create this poverty consciousness that you continually stay in. Now, you're going to have to physically, you're going to have to actively, consciously make the choice not to do that. That's very, very important. I emphasize the point that you must think that you're not going to do that. If you have clothes that are sitting there for last 3 years, start getting rid of them. Don't think, let me give it to my daughter, let me give it to my son. No, just pick up the bag, put the clothes in the bag that you don't wear. Go through your clothes, pick up the clothes you don't wear, and hand them to Oxfam or a thrift store, so somebody else may benefit. Another person that is maybe poor, that's maybe needy over there, they can benefit from that. You don't need to think about sale and holding on for somebody else. I have known many people who do this, and believe me, these people cannot get out of their poverty conscious cycle, because their brain is reinforcing it. The other way the brain reinforces poverty consciousness is it might say to you, I have a loaf of bread, let me give half of my loaf away to somebody who's poor. That's poverty consciousness as well. You do not give half of your loaf to somebody else. You actually keep the loaf for yourself. What you do, you eat half the loaf. Let's say all you could do was eat half the loaf. You don't think, Oh, let me take the other half and give it to my neighbor. No, that's your poverty conscious brain coming into action again. What you do, the other half loaf, you feed it to the birds. That is following God's order in the Torah that you leave the areas of your field, the corners, meaning you leave your food on your plate to feed the birds, the creatures of God. And that is where it should be going, not thinking, oh, well, let me give it to my neighbor and they will benefit. No, because you see, the brain, because the way we live in the society, the brain has adapted itself to the society, and it drives you more and more into problematic areas. And the more you dwell on those parts of the brain, the more you end up being poor. And you will see this. You can look around yourself. You will find this in people around you, maybe your friends, maybe your family, who continue to do these behaviors. And so you, as a child of Israel, you need to come out of that brain behavior, because you need to train your brain to be abundant, to accept abundance, to behave abundantly. Remember, before you get to be the best version of you, you need to behave like that best version. Well, would the best version of you save a quarter of your plate and stick it in the fridge for 2 weeks? Ask yourself that question. Would the best version of you have clothes sitting in the closet which have been there for 5 years and nobody's wearing them? Would the best version do that? Or would the best version say, let me go get a new dress and I'll give the old dress to free to Oxfam? So this is how you need to think. And let me tell you something about myself. I have never ever sold anything that I have old. Never sell it. I have always taken it free and put it in Oxfam in England. And I used to live in England. I would put it in Oxfam. When I lived in America recently, I would go and take it to Walmart, and they have bins. They have these big little areas where you can put the clothes, your old clothes, and they take them and they take them to thrift stores. I would take my old clothes, sitting there for 2 years. I'd take them, put them in a bag, and put them in Walmart's, these little areas they have created. So in England, I would take them to Oxfam, and I would take working machines, like working vacuum cleaner, working TV, working fridge freezer that I didn't want to use. If my brother or sister, they didn't have a need for it, I would take it to what in England is called a tip. Here you might call it a different name, but it's like a garbage place where you have these big biffers, and you take it, and they have these different biffers for electric, for home, household, and other stuff. And what I would do, I would take it and I would place it where the electronics were to one side, and tell the person, this is a working thing and you may want to use it for whatever. I just leave it there free. I don't think like the poverty conscious brain. Let me tell you what the poverty conscious brain thinks. Let me put it on eBay. Let me make $10 out of it. That's the poverty conscious brain. So beware. Do not fall into the trap of the poverty conscious brain where you think you can make $10 or $5 out of an item that you really should give away free. It's a very, very important principle. These principles, if you follow these principles, you'll never be poor. I'll tell you that. You'll never be poor. But if you continue to live in the old principles of, let me make $5 out of 100, you will be poor. You will live a poor life till you're, old and dead. So what's the point? The point is, don't do it. So that's one thing. Now coming back to the Parsha, which is the Mattot, in Numbers chapter 30 verse 1 says, and Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, this is a thing which Yahweh has commanded. If a man vow a vow to Yahweh or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. If a woman also vow a vow to Yahweh, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's bait in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and her bond, wherewith she has bound her soul, and her father shall hold his shalom at her, then all vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she is bound, her soul shall stand. Let me give you the not the literal meaning of this, but the what I call the mystical meaning. The mystical meaning is this: binding a vow. Binding a vow is like writing an affirmation. You could write an affirmation that says, I am a millionaire. Now, you told yourself that, you bound yourself to a vow, and you said, I'm a millionaire, and I'm not going to stop till I become a millionaire. I'm a millionaire, which means that you are now asking the universe, God, because you're making a vow to God. Because where is that affirmation going to go? It's going to be processed by your head, by your brain, by your subconscious. And subconscious, remember, it connects with God. So you're connecting with awareness. Awareness is a part of subconscious that connects with God. And you're saying that I am a millionaire. Or you might be saying I'm abundant. Any of these I am affirmations. And when you're doing the I am affirmation, I am abundant, or I am a millionaire, or why am I a millionaire? This works too. When you're doing that, you actually are making a vow. Now, the vow doesn't mean that you make it today and a week later you change your mind. You say, oh, well, no, £1 million is too much for me. I don't need $1 million. Maybe I'll settle for $500,000 instead. So the very first thing what you need to do is to be aware, what do you want exactly? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to see the best version of you? And if the best version of you says, I'll be very happy if I have $10 million in my bank, then that is where you need to place yourself. If the best version of you says that, hey, if I have $10 million in my bank, I will be a very happy person. So you write down, I have $10 million in my bank. Or you say, I have received $10 million in my bank. Or, why have I received $10 million in my bank? It's a question. And the question works great. So what happens is then you have decided a vow. This is a vow basically to yourself. And this is why you need to sit down. One day you sit down and you consider and you think. And you say to yourself, what do I want? Where do I want to be? What's the best version of me? Where will I be really happy and feel independent, financially independent, maybe able to do another business or invest somewhere, but with a full conscious choice, knowing full well that I need to have this, to be at a stage where I can say, you know what, now I don't worry about 9-to-5 job. I can have a life. I can invest in business, and I can sleep when I want, and I can wake up when I want. So what you do is you decide a number. That number will be the millions of dollars that you require. So I'm just giving you 10 million as an example. For some it might be 100 million. For some it might be $1 billion. It doesn't matter. Number is really relative, but you got to decide a number. So you might say, you know what, if I have $50 million, I will be a happy woman, or I will be a happy man. So then you write that oath. That's an oath basically what you're making to yourself now. You're saying, the best version of me will love to have $1 million, with $50 million. And you write down two ways. There's 3 or 4 ways to write it. You can write down, I am $50 million. That's one way. Second way, I'll say it again, I am $50 million. Second way, why do I have $50 million? That's the second way. Third way, I have $50 million. I have received $50 million. I have received $50 million. Why am I $50 million? I am $50 million, etc. You get my gist? And I'm giving you gist of the money. And it could be regards to money, a house, or some other material object, even an aeroplane. So, I have a Boeing jet 787. That's possible too. So I'm just giving you the idea where you want to be. But think about where you're going to park that plane. So, because airports are expensive. So having said that, you decided that you want to have a certain amount of money which will allow you to purchase the home of your dreams, the car that you like to drive, and the business that you'd like to establish. Because, these are things that only you know and only you can decide. I cannot decide for you. I cannot tell you what is the right number. I cannot tell you what is the best car. I cannot tell you what is the best home. I cannot tell you what is the best business. Why? Because each individual person has different qualities and different attributes. As a human being, you might be good at one thing versus another. Maybe, you're one of those people that's really good at the stock market, and you might think, I'm going to, get my money and I'm going to start investing in the stock market and I'm going to start making money. So you might be really good at that, and you might really do good at numbers. And so, you might be a person who might invest $1 million out of the money you received at the stock market, and you might end up making 100 million out of it. You might be one of those people. But then again, you may be a person who knows nothing about the stock market, and you end up making some bad investments. You take your $1 million, you put it in the market, and you lose it all. So this is why I cannot be just giving same people same advice. Different people, different categories. You might be an individual that might say, I have $1 million and I'm going to invest in real estate. Or you might say, I'm going to invest in trucking, buy a truck or buy a number of trucks and put them on the road and make money out of it, hauling stuff from one end of the country to the other. Or you might say, I'm going to take my $1 million and I'm going to open, 5 coffee stores in the town, in different areas of town, or maybe in different towns. So everybody's different. Nobody is the same. Everybody will have their own decision, their own, they'll have their strengths and they'll have their weaknesses, and they will know what is their strength. Somebody might say, I'm happy to run a coffee store and make money out of it. Another person might say, no, coffee store is not really for me. I'm going to be more happy if I run a boutique, selling clothes. Another person might say, well, no, that's not really me. I think that I'm more happy selling makeup. Or you might say that I'm maybe somebody who, does an online store at Amazon and sells stuff at Amazon, or maybe at eBay, or maybe Shopify. You see, everybody's different. So you cannot give one advice for all. There's no such thing as one advice for all. Everybody's different. So you all have different qualities, different capabilities. One person is a great planner. One person is a great executor. One person is great in art. One person is really good in handling gold. And one person is really good in doing, other stuff. Like, there's so many businesses out there. There's so many business models. So it's not, easy to tell what anybody or any individual is good at. But I can tell you one thing. As the children of Israel, the one thing that you'll never lose in is real estate. You will never lose money in real estate. You can shut your eyes and you can go, buy real estate and just leave it, buy land, leave it for 10 years, it'll give you money. You buy houses, rent them, they'll give you money. So real estate you'll never lose. You will have to go through the ups and downs of upkeep, insurances, finding people to rent places and things like that. You will go through that. That's obviously work. But you will not have the problem like some other businesses that you do. But then again, you might be a person who might say, I don't need to do any of that. Why should I, waste my time trying to find tenants, trying to find a property, trying to put it on rent? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go open a stock market account and I'm going to start writing options. Now, options is an instrument on the stock market that you can write for people, and people purchase them from you, and you sell them online, and you collect a premium. Every time you write an option, you collect a premium. And the premium varies. Sometimes premium, if you sold weekly options, the premium might be $50 per option. It might be $100 per option. Different options, different premium. So you're taking a risk. You're saying that I really know how to do this well. I'm going to write premium. I'm going to sell 10 options a week, and I'm going to make, I'm going to make $1,000 out of them. $100 premium per option. Or you might say, I'm going to sell 10 options for a month, 30-day expiry, and I'm going to, write these options for $200 per option, premium. You're going to collect $200 per premium per option. It's about, for 10, that's about $2,000. And you're going to say, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to write $2,000 worth of options. And if I'm right, I'm going to break even. I'm going to take profit at 50%. I'm going to close these at 50%. I'm collecting $1,000. Each time I win, I'm going to collect $1,000. So maybe you do this, 4 times in the month, and you collect $4,000 in the month, and you bank it. And what did you do? You just did it out of your comfortable chair and a laptop and a connection to the stock market. Any software like Thinkorswim or Tastyworks or Options House software allows you to do any of that. You open a stock market account and away you go. Or you might be like, I'm going to do it at the Forex, foreign exchange. I'm going to go pick a currency that I like, maybe British pound versus US dollar, and I'm going to invest only in that currency. I'm going to go short or I'm going to go long, and that's when I'm going to make my money. So again, horses for courses. Everybody's different. Nobody's the same. You might make your $1 million on the Forex. You might make your million on the stock market, or you might make your millions in real estate or something else, because you might set up an online store at Shopify and start selling products that people really, really want, and you make money there. So, then you don't even have to get out of your home because you're running your business right out of your house. There are many, many business models, and you got to understand where you want to be and where you want to invest. Or you might say, you know what, I have $50 million, I'm going to take 10 million and I'm buying some shares in Walmart, and I'm buying some shares in Amazon, and I'm buying some shares in Tesla, and you invest and you sit on the shares and you say, every time the shares hit a 50% ride, I'm selling these and taking my profit. So like give an example. Not too long ago, Amazon was selling at $1,500 a share. Today, Amazon is selling at, my goodness, $3,200 or something, double the price. It's more than doubled. I remember Amazon not too long ago, last year, was at $1,200 something, $1,200. Today, Amazon is sitting at $3,200 something. So, quadrupled your money in under 2 years. Now, if you had invested $1 million, right? Just let's take $1 million. You invested into Amazon and you sold today. You would have collected about times 2 your money. If you invested 1, you would probably have picked up another $2 million profit. Now, this would have been a whole, maybe 18 months of investment. Now, in 18 months, if by investing 1 million, you made 3 million, think about it. You are richer by 2 million. Abundance or not. You really made abundant life set because you made your money plus you made 2 million additional. Now you could take your original million and reinvest it and keep the 2 million, and that could last you maybe the next 2 years. You could, sit back, relax, and spend that money wherever you want to, and enjoy 2 years of free time. No need to worry about coronavirus. No need to worry about lockdowns, shutdowns, going to work, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. None of that is necessary. So my point is that you really need to consider where you want to be. And all the opportunities are out there. You write your own economy. If you say to yourself, I want a job that pays me $100,000, and you're an engineer, maybe like me, a software engineer, and you really love your job, and you say, you know what, it'll be nice if I can make $100,000 a year. And sure, you can go and write yourself a job in your script. You can say that I am working in a software engineering job that pays me $100,000. So you could word it in shorter words. Shorter words would be, I am receiving $100,000 salary in a job that I love doing software engineering. Shorter words, and you will get, you then repeat that affirmation, you visualize on it every day, you do your meditation daily, midbrain meditation. Highly recommend midbrain and third eye chakra activation. Those are the 2 key. Apart from the grounding, the 7 chakra cleaning, those things are good, but they may be like, you don't do them every day, you do them once a week. Grounding is for people who are ill. They may need to do that daily to help themselves. It really helps those people with the grounding exercise. and the meditation, but you may do the third eye chakra activation in the morning, and maybe you do the midbrain in the morning and third eye chakra in the evening. Those two are enough to get you going, and the rest is up to you. You give yourself a meditation, you give yourself a visualization in the day, and you do that, and I can guarantee you this. I'll guarantee with a big G that you will get all your desires. Simple as that. But I have found in my testing that the best affirmations are the why affirmations. I found them to be the best and the fastest. So if whatever affirmation you have, if you have an affirmation that says, I am $1 million, I would rephrase that as, why am I $1 million? And that will come through faster in your life. Have a belief system. Believe in yourself if nobody else. Believe in yourself that you're capable, that you can do this, and then you just need to apply. So this parsha talks about an oath, talks about a vow with the Lord. But where is the Lord? The Lord is inside your subconscious. The Lord's connection is through your subconscious to the heavenlies. And if you have made a vow with the Lord that I'm going to receive $50 million, and you might start with a lower figure. You might say, let me start with 1 million and I'll work my way up to 50 later. It's a choice that you have. It's your choice. Again, one of the things I advise is that first thing you do at night, the very first thing you do at night before you go to bed, the best thing to do at night is to sit down on your bed, or maybe you sit down on the side of your bed, and you do a little bit imagination. And the imagination will be what you want to be. What's the best version of you going to be? Are you going to be a businessman? Are you going to be an entrepreneur? Are you going to run a shop? Are you going to run something else? Are you going to have, are you going to make 30 Uber taxis? What are you going to do? What do you want in your life? Are you going to rent 50 homes? What do you want? See, you got to first of all write your goals. Whatever goal you've written down, you sit down in the evening on your bed. You sit down and you visualize. You spend about 5-10 minutes visualizing. Once you do the visualizing, then you give thanks. You must give gratitude. Thank you, Lord, for everything. Thank you for the beautiful day. Thank you for the things that happened today. I'm really grateful. Thank you. Oh, thank you, universe. Thank you. Just do thank you. And then, you forgive yourself. I forgive myself if I did any wrong. And I forgive others who did any wrong against me. You've done those two things, then you can, before you've done your visualization, before you fall asleep, and you can repeat your affirmations that you have on your little card. Have your little index card? You wrote a few affirmations on it, and you carried it with you. Well, I encourage you to repeat those before you fall asleep. Then you switch the light off, you make sure everything is switched off, and then you fall asleep. One of the lights that is good to put on at night. Normally, people can go sleep pitch dark. One of the lights that is good at night is a blue light, because the blue light actually is your throat chakra area, the light blue, and it's really good for you because it helps to remove negativities. It helps to activate your throat chakra and helps to remove negativities as well. So you may want to consider, having maybe possibly a blue light, little bulb that, although it's pitch dark, but you may have a little blue light in your room, if you like that. I actually have that in my room, back home. I have that, and I like the blue light. So I actually have here's a funny story. The blue light that comes in my room comes out of the mosquito repellent. Got the blue lights in there. So I kind of let them run, and they create a little light in the room, and also they take care of mosquitoes. So that's what you may want to consider. And putting everything to side, it's a mission. You must take this as a mission. It's a great mission. It's a beautiful mission. And when you consider what you're about to do is a mission, and you're about to change your life will change, and your mission will complete. But you must be very serious. Remember, as I keep saying to people, that never ever forget to give, circulate money, tithe, zadaqah. 10% of each is what you're supposed to do, is called circulation of money, energy. Money is energy. When you circulate the money, when you circulate the energy, it will come back 360 degrees back to you. If you circulate it, let's say you circulate nothing. If you circulate nothing, then nothing will come back to you. Nothing will generate nothing. So be very, very wise about these things that you need to circulate in order to receive. And when you go to the shopping centers to purchase stuff, don't ever use the word, oh, I'm spending $10 or I'm spending $50 or I've just spent $100. When you make speeches, when you speak to your friends and you say, oh, I went down the shop and I, spent $100 and blah, blah, blah. No, don't say it like that. Whenever you talk to your friends, use words that are constructive. So you'll say, I went down to such and such place and I circulated $100. So circulation means it'll come back around back to you. It's not going to just leave out there. So circulation is an important word. Keep that as a part of your vocabulary. It will help you to understand that we circulate money, we don't spend it. Because spenders never get anything back. Circulators get money going full circle. So always make sure that, part of your affirmations, you need to be aware of what you want. And you write it down. Write down your key affirmations. Maybe 10 affirmations are your key affirmations and the others are like subsets of those. So then just work on those. Work on those daily, diligently, and things will come to a head. Now remember, I gave you the techniques for the new moons. You can do the new moon. You can also do Rosh Chodesh, and you can also do lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. When you repeat an affirmation about 10,000 times on a solar or lunar eclipse, its power is tremendous. It can fulfill in your life, and it can do wonders for you. Now, I did give this week Rabbi Kefa some amulets, some symbols that I have. I gave it to Rabbi Kefa to, obviously the plates, the 72 names of God, the 42 names, Al-Adon prayer and other prayers that we have. I have given Rabbi Kefa a list, and maybe you want to speak to him and you want to order some of these things for yourself and for your homes. Why? Because they'll bring the power into your home. See, the 72 names will charge your home. You place it in the north side of your house. It will charge your home. And, well, if you don't have it, you don't have it. It's not charged. So, depends. Do you want to bring wealth consciousness into your house? Then make sure you have the 72 names of God on the north side of your wall. I would definitely consider that. I would actually put it, myself personally, I'll make sure it's downstairs in my living room and upstairs in my bedroom, in the north side of my house. So I'll have 2 copies of it, or maybe a copy for every room that, where I have family living. So that's how I think. So anyhow, I'm certain that you, listen to this recording, listen to it a few times. By the time you heard this, I have already landed in Pakistan and, be with my family and probably, enjoying myself over there. I guess, in the heat of the day, and probably looking for some cooler drinks. But other than that, I will speak to you in a week's time on the Sabbath, and then, let you know how things are going and what is happening over there in the East and how things are panning out. And so until then, Shabbat Shalom to you. Have a great Shabbat and a great week ahead. Shalom, Shalom.
Okay, yeah. Todah Rabbi Mishpahat and Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you. Todah HaKohin for your wonderful lecture. Todah for your responses, by the way, that I can be heard. Baruch Hashem. We give thanks always. As I drink my tea over here, as I drink my tea over here, I'm a big fan of neem, so I got some neem tea over here from some leaves that I ordered, some neem leaves. My goodness, I was thinking about this the other day. I take this tea to work, and neem leaves, I don't know if you ever looked at some neem leaves. You might want to Google it, but it actually looks like marijuana. It looks like marijuana, and I have it in a little baggie, my goodness. I was thinking, the thought came to my mind the other day as I was driving, going to work. I was like, you know, if I'm pulled over, what would the policeman think? Then all of a sudden, I had to go in there and correct it, and you know, I changed the whole scenario. And you know, because you know how your thoughts wander. You know, your thoughts always want to tend to think negative if you don't deal with them. How many of you know what I'm talking about? So I immediately began to change the whole story, the whole thing that never came into fruition, of course. But again, and this is all going to be a part of my lecture as well as we get into it. It's very important that we, you know, rewrite the script. You know what I mean? Because it's so simple, and sometimes it can be so almost innocent, and just it's so subtle how you can just get, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. How you can just get preoccupied with things that really don't come into fruition. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You can sit here and think about things that have never happened, and that never happened. You know, you're thinking about a thing one day, and during that 24 hours of that day, that event never occurred. Yet you wasted, you know, precious time, you know, on the thought process that never materialized. You wasted a lot of energy that could have been directed in another direction that would bring you benefit and blessing. But again, we have to change up the whole script. So what I did was I changed the whole thought process and I visualized, you know, me offering and doing a teaching on neem and the values of neem, N-E-E-M, if you want to look it up, and how valuable it is for our bodies, a great herb, and that we can utilize, that the Master, you know, has left for us, that the Mother Earth produces. So, yeah, here I am drinking my neem tea now, and I give thanks for neem, and I give thanks for all of our products. Now, as our Queen was talking about in his lecture, I mean, he hit on a lot of key points. Today, my lecture is going to be about, I titled it, the 3 R's. Now, let me look at my notes exactly how I wrote it down so you can kind of get a picture of what I'm talking about. The 3 R's that are life-changing. The 3 R's. The 3 R's meaning 3 R words. Now, 3 R words that are life-changing, because I wrote this down as well. My first R in the 3 R's is reality. For those of you who are writing it down. My first R in my 3 R's that are life-changing is reality. How many of you know, anybody want to give me a definition of what reality means? Now, before I do that, piggybacking off our Cohen's lecture, and I wrote this down, and I wanted to ask the family this question. And this is sort of like a game. Now, with this game that we're about to play right now, I'm going to call it the one-word game. You can only give one-word answer to this question that I'm about to ask right now. This is the game. You can only give a one-word answer, not 2 phrases, only a one-word answer to the question I'm about to ask right now. And here's the question. So get by your keyboards, because this game is going to be timed. You're only going to have 10 seconds to respond. So I'm giving you a heads up. So here is the question. What is most important to you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop, finish, stop. I told you it was quick. It was quick. You see, because this is a great test for ourselves to see because what's most important to you. The first thing that's going to come to your mind is really what you think about. It's really what's most important to you. It's really what do you want. You see what I mean? And I tell you, Mishpah, for those of you who are watching and listening in via YouTube, because you can't watch but you can listen in, the majority of the responses, I'll give you the responses if the Mishpah, the family don't mind, because you know you did respond, so I'm going to give them to you. And you know, responding is a key part. You know, taking action is so important for us as a family, as we know, as the family of Jacob. But so we have life, we have facts, life, Torah, and life. My goodness. So with this test, can you see this test? And you can test yourself on this all the time and test others as well. As students of human nature, we need to do this. With this test, what you'll find is what's most important to you? What is important to you? And I gave you 10 seconds so you don't have time to ponder, but the first thing that comes to your mind, Torah and life. Life and Torah. And remember, the title of my lecture was what? Was the 3 R's. The 3 R's that are life-changing. Now, with that first R, we talked about reality. Reality is important, right? Because a lot of times, even in our thoughts, even in our dreams, even in our daydreaming as we do a lot, night dreaming as we do a lot, is that majority of the time, and I don't want to put a percentage on it because it'll vary amongst the family, but the majority of the time, what we're thinking about is not real. You know what I mean? What we're thinking about is not real. Do you know what I mean? It's just not real. It's just not real. So, let me do this real quick. There you go. It's just not real. And by the way, I love to be called a kindergartner because I'm the children of Israel and will always be a child. I will always have the child mindset and I'll always be a child. But you don't want to stick around for that, right? Because you're too busy doing other things. I mean, even in this room of that mind, and you always have the capacity of a child. Because I'm going to always be a child, Miss Bahar. I don't care. Come Shiloh or Sheol. You can call me a child, and I'll take that as a compliment, by the way. So, I think it's very important for us to understand that, to have that childlike mindset. I'm going to always be a child. My name is, I am the children of Israel. I don't know about you, but I'm a child of Israel. I'm not a grown-up of Israel. I'm not an old folk of Israel. I'm a child of Israel. That's how my books taught me, so that's how it would be. So we leave the nonsense to the nonsense, and we don't put a lot of energy on it. So I think it's very important for us to understand. So with the reality side of it, reality is reality, right? But a lot of times we don't dwell on reality. We don't make things real. Now, in saying reality, reality is relative, isn't it? How many of you understand in this room, family, that you can change and alter your reality? I wrote that down. You can alter your reality. Any of you believe that? You got to have a belief that you can alter your reality. You don't have to just roll with what grandmama told you, or what your mama said you're going to be, or what your father said you're going to be. I hear it in the grocery store all the time. You ain't nothing. You ain't worth nothing. You act just like your daddy. You can change and alter that reality. You don't have to subdue yourself and be subjected to what is subjected to you, or subjective. You never gonna be nothing. Well, I'm gonna alter that reality. I'm gonna let you, because in my world that's not real. Because I'm already something. I am it. you know what I mean? So again, it's very important in the 3 R's here that we deal with reality, and you got to deal with it. If you don't deal with reality, you're going to have just a miserable life, because your life is going to hop from to and fro to whatever somebody says, or whatever said on the news media, or whatever your loved ones tell you, or whatever your spouse tell you. You believe it to be true, then that's what it's going to be. So shall it be. So it is. So when you get to the meat and potatoes of the situation, of life, the meaning of life, as all of you came with these, majority of you that did answer on our little test that we did, don't you think that was an awesome test? Because it puts you forefront, and it lets you subjectively see about yourself, how you see yourself, and what's most important to you, because you got to respond real quick. And you only responded, and my grandma used to say this always, she used to always say this, she used to say, always go with your first mind. How many of you ever heard that saying before? That's wisdom. It's to always go with your first mind. Always, because your mind is going to give you different options. if you allow it time. This is why I'm going to take time out of the equation. This is why in that little game we played, how many of you like that little game we played, by the way? Put up capital G if you kind of like that little game. Because in that game you played, I eliminated time by giving you 10 seconds. Only 10 seconds now. You see, because you don't have time to ponder and, come up with and let your mind begin to play. It's just automatically boom. Stop for your responses, by the way. It's just automatically boom. I'm gonna put it in your face. I'm just gonna let's just see where you're at. It's an evaluation. It's a test. It's a game of testing. And if you look at our history and our heritage, the rich heritage of the Hebrews, the rich heritage of the Israelites, can we not sum up our whole history as that, as a game of testing and test and test? 40 years wandering in the wilderness, what do you call that? I mean, what do you call that? Think about that for a minute. Going around in circles, what do you call that? Over a land that you're going to occupy, and we're going to deal with that in a minute, because that's a very important part. Very, very important part of what we're getting into this day. So reality is our first R in the 3 R's that we're talking about. You're going to hear a lot of R words today. So get happy. So if you're not already happy, get more happier. Get in the happiest state that you can be in, Baruch Hashem. So reality is very important in our lives, Mishpachah, and as we begin to, in our evolution of growing. And speaking of life, I tell you, Mishpachah, I wrote something down today, and it's all in correlation. The family of Israel, we all kind of seem to think alike. In that test process, some said Torah, some said life. But aren't they synonymous? Now, I asked myself this morning, not knowing what you guys were going to respond to. I was asking myself this morning this question. Do I mirror the Torah, or does the Torah mirror me? This kind of stuff that I think about. Do I mirror the Torah, or does the Torah mirror me? Something to think about, right? I'm no philosopher. And I don't want to study philosophy, by the way. Because, in my opinion, it's just a waste of a good life to study philosophy. We're going to get to that in a minute. You'll see why I'm saying that. But, think about this for a minute. Do I mirror the Torah, or does the Torah mirror me? Sort of like the answers that you gave in the test. The 10-second test. Was life and Torah. Are they not synonymous? Think about that for a minute. Are they not the same? Torah is life, and life is the Torah, isn't it? Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful how this 10-second test showed with the people that answered it that, Mishpachah, you that did answer, do you all not understand that you all are on the same wavelength? You all have the same energy? It's based upon your response. Did you not see it? You might want to go back up and scroll up and see what the responses were. But do you not see that, you all are on the same wavelength? So when I say your family, that's real. You think alike. We think alike. But yet, at the same time, as you heard in our Kohen's lecture, we're different. But at the core, at the foundation, our foundations are built on the same rock. You get it? But there's a lot of diversity in it. You understand what I'm saying? You can be diverse. You can like to do something somebody else. I love the Forex. Maybe some people don't like the Forex. Listen, I love being rich, but maybe some people in the family don't like being rich. I get that. It's whatever their reality is for themselves. Because remember, and I wrote this down, reality can be altered. Whether you believe it or not, it's real. Because at the end of the day, that's the determining factor. What do you believe? What's important to you? And I wrote this down for you that answered in the test. I wrote this down. And I put question mark. And I wrote this down. This was early this morning. I wrote this down. What happens after this life ends? And I wrote it down just like this. I was asked, what happens after this life ends? And Mr. Bahar, I would encourage you to come up with some, opinions. What happens after this life ends? I wrote it down just like I put question mark. What happens after this life ends? Anybody want to, give their opinion on it? Because there's no wrong answer, by the way. And I tell you what, Lion Princess says a new life begins. Any other takers? Any other opinions on it? Another one begins, reincarnated. To die for your opinions. The next life, Eddie says. Shabbat Shalom to you, Eddie 10. But what happens after this life ends? Atar says, I start another road. Now let me give you my response that I wrote down. Because I asked myself, I was like, well, what happens after this life ends? And then I put life in capital letters with an explanation mark. Life. Think about it. What happens after this life ends? Life. Because what you must understand, and like all of you are understanding and continue to understand, family, is that we are energy, right? Energy can't be destroyed. You just change form. So you go from one life but you still have life. That seems simple on the surface, doesn't it? So why in the fudge do most people spend all of their time in this period with this life concerned about what's going to happen in the next? And that brings me back to what I was talking about, the philosophers. There's a lot of philosophers. They waste their whole life pondering on the next life. What a disaster, in my opinion. What a waste, in my opinion. You got this beautiful gift of life. Instead of creating, you spend this life pondering about the next life. And that brings me to the two words we're going to hear. I go ahead and talk about vocabulary. I had vocabulary in my lecture too as well. I guess we think alike, right? Because we family. And I'm a student of the Kohen forever. Elolam Vahed. But my vocabulary words for us today, coming up right out of Webster.com, I have two of them. First word is preoccupy. Preoccupy is a key word, and you can probably Google it right now if you want to. Ask Uncle Google or Aunt Alexa, however you want to roll. But preoccupy. To me, that's what philosophers are. They preoccupy their time, their period on this earth with, let's just look at the definition of preoccupy as I took it out of Webster. Webster.com. Preoccupy, to engage or engross in interest or attention of beforehand. To take possession of or feel beforehand. Or before another. And look at the example Webster gives in a question. Examples of preoccupy in a sentence. The question of life after death has preoccupied many philosophers. My goodness, what a waste. Majority of you in this room, Mr. Bahar, you already answered that. Right? What happens after life? You all answered it. Majority of you said life. Baruch Hashem. If I could sum it up. And a lot of folks already knew this anyway. You don't have to be a philosopher to figure it out, because what do they say? Well, what happens, you hear people say this in phrases of people that have passed on to the next life or to the afterlife. Isn't that what they say? How many of you heard them coin it that way? They say afterlife. Well, what's going on in the afterlife? Because it's life after life. And then you have life after that, and you have life and life. Because your energy. You like Bebe's kids. You don't die, you multiply. Your energy. Your energy. So, when this life is done, there's more life. Baruch Hashem. Don't get discouraged. Don't fall and be hoodwinked and be preoccupied today with what they call a heaven, a paradise, or whatever they want to call it. And do you know, majority of folks on the face of this earth, as you study humanity, they waste. They just destroy their life based upon being preoccupied with a heaven, with a hell, with a paradise. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And they never use the energy that they have now to create, to face reality. They don't have time for reality. Their reality has been altered. And I know a lot of you right now would say, Rabbi Kefa, I have friends, family members, and loved ones that are right now on that journey right now. The journey of being preoccupied with just nonsense. How many of you would agree with me that right now, you as students of human nature, you have a friend, a family member, or a loved one that meets that criteria? And you're not being judgmental. You just real. This is reality 101. You got to face reality. And you got to get, because reality is staring you in the face whether you want it or not. Now, reality sometimes will dress itself up. And what you think is real is not. Because your reality, if you don't understand, can be altered. Your perception can be altered. You can change your perception, or you can be changed. And I call it the conditioning that we've been in for so long. They just changed our reality. Our reality was changed, and we began to believe it, right? Thus, we hopped into Christianity and Catholicism, and we were searching and all these different things to find what? What's real? That was fake and phony. But we had to go through the fake and the phony to get to real, correct? I did in my journeys. Baruch Hashem. And I don't discount the fake and the phony, because it helps me have a greater appreciation for what's real. Reality stares me in the face. And then, now, thanks be to the Kohen Rabbi Simon out there, I have the tools to alter my reality. When reality stared me in the face, I put pictures of what I want in my face. And I began to do what? Another R word. I began to retrain my brain. Say it with me, Miss Fahar. Retrain your brain. Say it. Retrain your brain. Say, I'm retraining my brain. And I begin to put pictures up. Comes in the form of what? Scripting. Comes in the form of physical pictures. Images. Of how I'm going to alter my reality. And how I am altering my reality into what I want. This is why I ask you, what's important to you? Baruch Hashem. So we got to preoccupy. How many of you want to be preoccupied? Put up capital P if you want to be preoccupied. I don't want to be preoccupied. Preoccupied takes me out of my first R word. It takes me out of reality. It brings me someplace that I don't want to waste my energy on. You see? But you must guard, and I want to warn you to guard yourselves against falling for the okie-doke of preoccupation, if that's even a word, of being preoccupied. The state of being preoccupied. How many of you know it's very easy to get preoccupied? Remember I gave you the example of the neem tea? And I was just driving in my car thinking, man, if I get pulled over right now, that's preoccupied. That's my mind trying to preoccupy me. You see? It was trying to take me to a place that would make me worry and have doubt and have fear. Oh, if I get pulled over by the 5-0, they're going to think this is hashish. They're going to think this weed in my car in this Ziploc bag. And it's only my tea. And then I'm going to have to explain. You see how you can go down that rabbit hole? How many of you have been okey-doke by being preoccupied this week? This past 6 days of labor? It happens. But you got to recognize it. I'm telling you, if you haven't, you're living in a fictitious world. Because, believe me, It comes to you, and it's real subtle. Before you know it, you done created a whole scenario that never even came into physical manifestation. But that energy was wasted. When I drive and I'm commuting, I always like to, have positive thoughts and give praise to my ancestors and invoke my ancestors and the God that they serve, because it's the same God that I serve. So how did I get off on neem and weed and getting pulled over by the 5-0? You see what I mean? You see, you got to deal with it at its adolescent, at its infant state, because if you don't, preoccupied will become full grown in your thought process, in your imaginations, and when it becomes full grown, how many of you know, when you get somebody that's full grown, it's hard, it's very, very difficult for them to want to change. It's very difficult to get rid of them then. Whilst when they're a baby, retraining is easy. Remember we talked about retraining the brain? It's easy to do when you're a baby. Like with Nachshon right now. He turned 10 months yesterday. Baruch Hashem. Was it yesterday? No, it was actually a couple of days ago. I said, son, 10 is a great number. But with Nachshon, he's 10 months. And, he's getting some Hebrew language in. He's getting some Mandarin language in. And he's getting some English language in. And he's just absorbing it all. And you might say, well, Rabbi Kefa, can he handle it? Oh, yeah. As a baby, that mind can handle it. And we're just feeding it to him. Feeding it to him. And my wife will sit down and she'll watch her Chinese TV, news channels and stuff, find out what's going on in China. And I tell you, Nachshon's attention, I'll tell you, he's just looking at that, he's listening. I'm like, my goodness. Nachshon is a supercomputer. And he is. Just absorbing all of that. Language. Baruch Hashem. He has a great attention span now. Grown folks, where's their attention span going? Man, my goodness. So you must deal with it when it's at its infant stage. Retrain the brain, Mishpachah. That's not one of my R words, by the way. But it is an R word. Remember I told you you're going to hear a lot of R words today. So our first R word is reality. What's our next R word, Rabbi Kefa? Well, our next R word, Alex for 500, is reasoning. You have to be able to reason with yourself first before you can reason with anybody else. Hakohen in his lecture talked about how, the Catholic churches or the Christian churches are kind of sharing, their places of worship with the Muslims. What is that? What is that a great example of? Reasoning, where two people could come together, not have the same belief system whatsoever. You see, because the Christians and the Catholics believe in a God that you can see, but the Muslims believe in a God, the unseen God. How many of you understand that point? That's a big hurdle to get over. But because we can sit down and reason together, not going to war with one another, but sit down and reason together, then we can come to a peaceful reality. Baruch Hashem. See, these R words are powerful. So all of us, family, we are great reasoners. We reason well. Our reasoning is off the charts. If you would put us on some kind of scale, it's just like we're blown off the charts because we know how to reason. Thus, we live in a state of shalom, of peace, because we're great reasoners. Sometimes you have to go to war in your reasoning, but those times are very small. As we look at our parsha, Mattot, those times are very, very small. But when we go to war, do we not take care of business? Now, the first war that you must realize that's occurring is the war with it's an internal war. How many of you understand that? Many of the folks under the umbrella of the Torah here in North America, they have this ideology that we are to pick up arms. You see it on YouTube, you don't believe me. And now we are to pick up arms and we're to fight. That's just not real. That's not reality. And those particular groups are classified as hate groups now by the FBI. Why? It's because they have the wrong reasoning. And they're not connected with reality, Ms. Bahar. You can't fight this superpower and think God is with you. Number one, if they even understood our history, they'll realize that, let me ask you this question, family members, in our history. When we go to battle, who goes first? That's the question. When the Hebrews went to battle, who went first? Who went first? Okay, Sadah for that response, family. You guys are clued up. You guys have an awesome teacher. And Hakohi, Brugajim. He's really taught us well, hasn't he? The Levites go first. So, reality would tell you that, okay, if we have our Levites, and what are the Levites doing? Are they practicing Kung Fu? Do they have the big bazookas in the front? Why do they go first? What is their purpose? Do they even have a weapon in their hand? I submit to you that it's a weapon, but not a conventional one. What was the job of the priesthood? Why did they go first? Can anybody tell me? And pray tell? Why was the Levites going first? Let's look at it in Numbers 31 and 6. For those of you who need to get reacquainted, Baruch Hashem. Numbers chapter 31 verse 6, and again I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, or the Hidden Truth He Breaks Scrolls. If you don't have this Bible, you can get it on YouTube. On Amazon. So you listening via YouTube, you can get it on Amazon.com. It's a great Bible to add to your collection. And Moshe and Musa and Moses sent them to war, 1,000 of every tribe. Them and Phinehas. Wow, Phinehas, our superhero Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the Kohen, the priest, to the war. With what? With M1 Abrams tank? With M16? With a bazooka? No. With the holy instruments and the shofarim to blow in his hand. Are you with me, Ms. Bahar? That's how we roll. Okay? So, when today on YouTube they're telling you to go to war, my first question is, okay, where's the Kohanim? If we commanded to go to war, then the Kohanim will lead the way. But yet, we are commanded to go to war right now. But it's not with an enemy outside of ourselves, it's with the enemy within. And the Kohen in the gate, Rabbi Simon Altef, is equipping us with all the necessary tools to fight and conquer and win battles and wars with the enemy that's within. How many of you are with me on that? Put up a capital W, you say Lamont. Put up a capital W, you say Rabbi Kefa, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm right in this war with you. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Sadah for your responses, by the way. We must reason and have reasoning within ourselves that this is the true war in today's time. Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled with YouTube and all these videos you're watching of these so-called Hebrews that saying we to arm up, we're to tear up our passports. That's not part of us. That's not a part of the tribe of Israel. That's just not a part of the family of Jacob. Their reality is skewed and their reasoning is just like off the charts. Wrong in the negative stance. Negative side. From a negative standpoint. Reasoning for us is a byproduct of who we really are. Shalom. That's where reasoning is a byproduct of it. You'll know people who have peace, who have shalom, because they're great reasoners. They can sit down and let's reason with one another. Baruch Hashem. Make that a part of your mantra as well. To be great reasoners. To be great with reasoning. Well, you can sit down with anybody. They don't have to agree totally with everything. that you agree with, and you can have a conversation with them, you can befriend them, and so be it. And they can think totally different than you. That's okay. Because I'm not here to divide. I'm like Baby's kids. I'm here to multiply. I'm a child of Israel. How many of you with me? You're like, well, Rabbi Kefa, what's a Baby's kids? That's like a cartoon show that I grew up watching. You can probably watch it, Google it. It's called Baby's kids. I'm telling you, he had a lot of them too. Because he multiplied, just like Baby's kids. And they used to always say, we Baby's kids. We don't die, we multiply. That's where I get that from. And maybe they get that from the Torah. Because the commandments given to man and animals to multiply the earth, not to divide it. So, our number 2 R word is reasoning. So, how many of you are great reasoners? You're great at reasoning. You have peace, and you have peace around you. Peace be with you, and then peace be around you. Right now, John? So you have that peace because you're a great reasoner, and you have great reasoning skills to where you can sit down with anybody, whether they from China, whether they from Philippines, whether they from Iran. You can sit down and reason with them, whether they Muslim, whether they Christian, whether they love Buddha, doesn't matter. You can sit down and reason with them. You can sup together. You can drink tea together. Baruch Hashem. You're Israel. You're supposed to be great reasoners. You don't sit there and just say shalom and it's just shalom. Shalom is more than just a word. It's an action. But when you're preoccupied, Oliver's saying, I even reasoned with the skinhead once, Baruch Hashem. I love the skinheads too. I don't have nothing against the skinheads. I'll sit down with you. We can talk. I'll drink some wine with you. No problem. We can learn to agree to disagree. Right? Yeah, right now, Sean? We can learn to agree to disagree and still have peace. Not war and not rumors of war. Only war we should be having is the what? The war within. What a title of a great lecture, the war within, right? So, you see, when we begin to preoccupy ourselves, remember that vocabulary word we got earlier? Preoccupy. When we begin to preoccupy ourselves with all of these negative things, like hatred, division, war, envy, jealousy, it leads us down a slippery slope to a life that's not prosperous. Put it to you that way. So be careful and be on guard. Guard against preoccupying yourselves. Now, to balance that out, if you have preoccupied, what do we have on the other side? We got to bring balance to this, Mishpahah. Because you got to have the good with the bad, the happy with the sad. That's just what life is. And what did he say in that song? We still got to stay together. Let's stay together. Be it good or bad, happy or sad. Where did that song come from? Now, y'all know, where did that song come from? Be it good or bad, happy or sad. Let's stay together. My father has it on 8-track. But we have to do that. Togetherness requires both. You just can't have good without the evil. Right? So I know you would know it. You probably got it on 8-track cassette, Al Green, on LP. Yeah. But that's what we must do. Togetherness is what the world needs more of, not division. Not, okay, I'm going to separate from you because you have straight hair, my hair is curly, you have thin hair, my hair is nappy, so the two can't come together. That's not, you white, I'm black, you brown, you green, you yellow. What the heck? Togetherness is we all on this earth together, not separated and divided. Borders, and these were made by man. They put up borders and lines. The Master Yahweh created the earth. He didn't put up borders, did he? So, what's our next definition that we're going to talk about in our vocabulary? We talked about preoccupied. Now we're going to talk about occupied. What does Webster.com say about occupy? What does Webster say? Webster says occupy means to what? To engage the attention or energies of. Wow. I think that's a great definition by Webster. To engage. Listen to Webster. Straight out of Webster now. Webster.com. To engage the attention or energies of. This is why I Kohen asked you, and I'm going to ask you as well. What's important to you? What are you engaging? Where does all your attention go? Huh? You see why we did the 10-second test earlier? Where does all of your attention go? Well, the majority of the family said, my attention goes on life. I want to live life, and I know you want to live that life more abundantly, don't you? In your reality. In your reasoning. Right? So it's important for us to occupy ourselves. See, when I occupy, I want to go back to thinking, okay, now Sean's going to do great things when he gets big. He's going to help many people. He's going to be a blessing to many people. So that's what we must think about. Right now, Sean? Yeah, yo. So it's very important that we understand that. Is that we must occupy. Don't be preoccupied, but occupy. How many of you are with me, Mishpah? So the question is, what do we occupy ourselves with? What are you occupying yourself with? Where are you putting all your energy? You see? To not for your responses. I'm telling you, this is stuff, this is ground root stuff that we needed to help us grow our system. You know what I mean? You see, because the most successful people in life, and Eddie's, I know you 110% agree with me, the most successful people in life have developed a system. How many of you have a system? Put up an edge and say, right now, I have a system. They have a system, and it works, and then they just replicate it. They rinse and repeat their system. That's how they become successful. They have a system. How many of you in this room want to be successful? Put up a capital S if you want to be successful. Say, Rabbi Kefa, I don't care what it says. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to. You want to be successful in relationships. You want to be successful in your health. You want to be successful with money. You just want to be successful. Okay, so the key to that, and what our Kohen has been teaching us, and as a student of the Kohen, what I'm going to continue to teach as well, is that you have to develop a system. Now, your system can vary, because I have a lot of mentors in my life. And I've taken bits and pieces from those mentors, and I've developed my own system. And believe me, Mr. Rahab, my system's working. And so what I do, I just rinse and repeat that. I just repeat my system. You see, because once you have a system, and that system works, why do you want to alter and go away from your system? Why do you want to be preoccupied with what other people are saying? Occupy yourself with what works for you. Man, I love that definition Webster gives of occupy, right? To engage the attention. Where's your attention span? I remember the teachers, I'd be in school, and the teacher would tell me, you need to pay attention. You know how you say, I don't get paid for paying attention. Even back then, my mind was on my money, and my money was on my mind. I was like, well, I don't get paid to pay attention. Why do I need to pay attention when attention is not paying me? Brazil. I mean, even back then, I was always asking questions. Kind of got me in a lot of trouble sometimes because people don't understand you when you're real. You see, when you're not just doing things just because, but you want to be in reality. And I've always been like that, Mishpah. I've always wanted to be real. To engage the attention or energies of. And then Webster goes on to give some great examples and some more definitions, by the way, that we're going to read because I think it's very important. Tadarabapa, WebsterDictionary.com. Webster gives the example of this. Listen to YouTube. They occupied themselves with video games. How many of you know people that do that? I like video games, but I don't occupy myself with them. But I like video games. And for disclosure, Call of Duty is my best video game ever. I love some Call of Duty, but I don't occupy myself with it. I have to change Pampers. Nashawn needs attention. My wife needs some loving, and my daughter needs some direction. So yeah, video games have their place, but I don't occupy myself with them because I understand that there's more things that I need to occupy myself with. Right? I'm building billionaire businesses. I can't build billionaire businesses occupied with video games, but I like video games. I don't see nothing wrong with them. Y'all with me, Ms. Bahar? Let's go on and see further what Webster says about occupy. Another definition Webster gives is to take up. To take up. That'd be a good way to put it, Ms. Bahar. What are you taking up? What are you taking up? With the gift of life. What are you taking up? What are you taking up? What are you taking on? These are questions you need to ask yourself. Well, let me look at my script. See, your script is going to tell you what you're taking up. Your script will tell you. What am I taking up? What do you think about? Another definition Webster gives is to take up or to feel. What are you filling yourself with? Wow. What are you filling up yourself with in these 24 hours in a day? What are you filling? What's being filled? You see, this is why. You see, preoccupied has a lot of opportunities to try to get in. So you got to fill yourself. You got to keep filling yourself with the things that you want to do to make it your reality. How many of you know you create and make your reality? You do that. Can't blame it on the man. Can't blame it on mama and them. You do that. This is why when we talked about the war is not an outward war the way you hand-to-hand combat somebody else and Kung Fu Panda somebody else. The war is within. Baruch Hashem. And it's a great war, right? Because we win in many battles and we win in all the wars. Baruch Hashem. That's what we do. Because we go from strength to strength to strength, family of Israel. Baruch Hashem. That's how we roll. To take or to fill in. Look, they give another definition. To occupy, to take or to hold possession or control of. Wow. Hey, Eddie, I'm taking hold. I control the stock market. I control the Forex market, Eddie. I do. I'm telling you. Baruch Hashem. That's what I love. What do you control? Man, I control that Forex market. I got them down. I think just like the money maker, I am the money maker. And now I got the mindset of the money maker. You see what I mean, Eddies? And all my other investors in the room? How many of you love investing? You love the stock market? You love the Forex market? Anybody in this room besides myself? I know there's a few of you. That's why I like to single you out. I know there's a few of you in this room. Well, you may not be here at this moment, but I know there's a few of you. See, you need to take control of it. Don't be preoccupied. Let your mind have you take control. Oh, man, I got this neem tea in here, and it looks like marijuana. What a waste of taking hold of something, right? What a waste. So I had to erase that. I changed that up real quick. Baruch Hashem. Ruth says, I'm a beginner, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, Ruth. Beginner, chicken dinner, baby. Can't be mad at a beginner. Because we all, guess what? We all got to start somewhere. And I'm going to tell you something, Eddies. I'm going to tell you something, Yael. I'm going to tell you something, Oliver. I'm going to tell you something, Adelia. I'm going to tell you something, Ruth. At one time, the money makers used to kick my butt. The money makers was making a lot of money off of Rabbi Kefa. Because I had the wrong mindset. I was preoccupied. I didn't take control. Yael 110 said, I'm having to refresh. That's right. Remember that phrase, and I want you all to use it, and you're more than welcome to use it. I got to retrain the brain. Retrain the brain. Retrain the brain. Retrain the brain. And I continue to retrain my brain. And I continue to think more and more like the market makers, because I'm a money maker. I think more like them. And I begin to visualize the charts doing what I want the charts to do. And I begin to see it like it's real. And it becomes my reality that the charts is doing exactly what I want to do. And then you know what? Maybe the charts like this week, the charts didn't do, it didn't go all the way like I wanted it to go in my imaginations. But guess what I did? And I began to institute, and I began to reason with myself and say, you know what? I'm patient. I am patient. The God that I serve is patient, and I am patient. I got the DNA of El Shaddai, so I'm patient too. So guess what I tell them, Eddie? Guess what I tell them, Yael 110? Guess what I tell myself, Oliver, in this war? Guess what I tell myself, Adelia? You know what? I'm going to wait for the market to come back to me. I told myself this week, I'm going to wait. I got all the patience in the world. The market's going to come back, and I'm going to close this trade with a profit. I'm not getting ready to cut this trade with a loss. I'm not negative. I'm positive, so I'm going to wait. And that's just what I'm doing. And while I'm waiting, I'm still cutting grapes off the tree, Baruch Hashem, because I can wait. I'm the market maker. I am the money maker. I can wait because I understand what goes up has to come down. And what goes down, Mishpah, has to come up. It's all a matter of, do you have the capability to wait it out? Can you be patient? And I tell you, one of my trades, my goodness, it almost went to $1,000 loss. I say, so what? I'm going to wait it out. You see, because I have the mindset of the market maker and their little psychology that they throw on you. I can wait them out. Come Shiloh or Sheol. I'm going to watch this trade coming to profit. Oh, yeah, I went in about a one lot, standard lot, Baruch Hashem, and that trade's going to come into profit. I'm going to make all kind of money off that trade. I already see it. It's real. So I don't sweat the light stuff because I can alter my reality. See what I'm saying? So if we don't have if we don't have the bad in life, the incentive to elevate to the best would not to improve, because experience makes us pay attention to life. Oh, indeed it does, Timothy. Well said. And I know that's coming from somebody that wrote that with experience, Baruch Hashem. And that's how you chalk it up. You chalk it up as experience. I'm learning so much about the things that I take control of. I have control of the Forex market. I have control of the stock market. I love money and money loves me. You see what I mean? Yael 110 said, not bragging, but I made 4 times my investment. Baruch Hashem. Don't brag. That's just reality. That's your reality. Baruch Hashem. And you know what? It's going to even get more better than that, Yael, woman of the 10. It's just a start. Like someone said, Ruth said it. She said, you just beginning, Baruch Hashem. That's just the start. You see, I could have sit there and said, oh man, this trade is going so negatively against me. But you know what I did this week, Mishpah? I took another account and I doubled it in 2 weeks. I doubled it. Baruch Hashem. Not to brag, but just to show you where my reality is. Where my reasoning is, you see. Yael said, now I'm restarting. Absolutely. So I took something that was small and I doubled it. It's okay. Let's do it again. Again, Yael, woman of 10 is giving you an example of rinse and repeat. Once your system is down, don't change your system. But, Mishpah, I implore and I encourage all of you, and my desire for all of you this day is to develop your system. This is why I'm doing the 3 R's today. See, because these 3 R's can change your life. These life-changing. First, you got to deal with your reality. And if you don't like your reality, then alter your reality. Then you got to be able to reason. Then you have to be able to reason. Y'all with me, Miss Fahar? I want y'all to be with me, family. I want y'all to be right with me. Because as I come up, I want my family to come up too. And I celebrate you. It's not bragging. You guys are just stating your reality. We're Israel. We come up together. You think together, you're going to come up together. That 10-second test. It showed all of you that were here earlier for the 10-second test that you all have the same mindset. Did you not see that? Even for those of you who didn't get your answers in time for the 10. But do you see the ones that did? I mean, that's a physical manifestation of a spiritual principle. We're Israel. We all think alike. We're family. We all think alike, and we all going to grow alike, and we all going to come up alike, and because we're in the likeness of the Most High, Baruch Hashem, in His images we were created. We have the DNA of El Shaddai. So, anybody surprised that the answers were the same, yet from different perspectives, different reasonings, but the foundation is sound, tried, tested, proven, and sound. Israel is Israel is Israel. Baruch Hashem. So don't get preoccupied with the mumbo jumbo. Occupy yourself with what you want to control. Take control, like Webster says. Webster goes on to say this: to take hold, take possession of, to feel, to perform the functions of, to reside in as a new owner. Ooh, I like that. Or a tenant. You see, that's just what's happening in the internal battle. Is that there's a new sheriff in town and they're taking over. And it's called, I can alter my reality. I don't have to just settle for what I've been told, what I've been conditioned. No, I can alter that. I can change that. I can be whatever I want to be. Whatever makes me happy, that's what I'm going to do. You see? Baruch Hashem. You can do it. You can be it. But you got to see it. And you got to act it. I don't know why the Hokmah told me to write this down, but I did. I wrote the word down, reaction down. And maybe you can do this for yourself. It's going to help somebody. It's helping me. I wrote the word reaction down on a piece of paper, and I put it in a box. I put the word reaction in like a, I guess you would call it like a rectangular box. And then I look within that word reaction, and I put the word action in a box. And that was it. And I'm just meditating on that. And that was it. That was it. I tell the Hokmah, Mother Wisdom, I say, tell me what to write, tell me what to say, and I'll say it. I got a big mouth. Tell me what to write, tell me what to say, and I'll say it. Tell me what to write, tell me what to say, and I'll say it. Continue to guide and give me instruction to help me fulfill the desires of my heart, my dreams, my wants. Give me the tools. And I tell you, I have been taken from strength to strength, guided. See, now you got to listen, but then you got to do. So in that word reaction, I had to act. And I got to act on what Hokmah is telling me. What Mother Wisdom is telling me. And there'll be thoughts. There'll be thoughts that match up and align with my reality and my reasoning. That's how I know I'm on track. You understand? Because you're like, well, Rabbi, how do you know that that's coming from the Hokmah? Because it's going to line up with your reality, and it's going to line up with your reasoning. Now, the weed scenario with my neem leaves and the weed scenario of me getting pulled over and the cop thinking that there's weed, that doesn't line up with my reality, right? So I need to nix it. I need to take it out of my reality. I don't need to add fuel to that. You see what I mean? So you write that word down. I tell you, if you do it, it's powerful, Miss Bahar, because it may give you what you need when you need it. It may give you what you need now to propel you to your success, whatever that may be. I'm gonna throw another word at you, another R word. Like I tell you, a lot of R words today, and it's not by coincidence, but maybe it is by coincidence. But how many of you in this room want to be rich? Put up a capital R if you just want to be rich. You want to be rich. You don't want to be rich. You want to be filthy rich. You want to be rich. You put up a capital R if you want to be rich. Because this is going to take me to my next my final of my R words. The number 3 and my 3 R words that are life changing. Now, to die for your responses, by the way. Let me add myself to the family. Hey, how many of you understand that Israel, the Hebrews, were rich people? When you look at our forefathers, how many of you understand that they were rich people? They weren't these poor people, with sheets on and stuff, like, old torn up bed sheets and all this, that, the other, and the third. Our forefathers were rich people. I want you all to understand that. Foremothers as well. I want you to understand that. We wasn't going from hand to mouth, Miss Bahar. I just want you all to understand that. I want you to incorporate that in your reasoning and in your reality, because I'm just stating what's real. Now, the reason why I asked you if you want to be rich, it brings me to my third of my R's. And my third of my R's is, for 500 Alex, is risk. You must be willing to act, meaning to take risk. How many of you understand that? Now, the reason why I asked how many of you want to be rich as well is because I had this wisdom come to me this week as well. Through a Little Rascals movie I was watching. Little Rascals. Is that no one ever became rich working for someone else. I'm going to say that again. No one has ever become rich working for someone else. Think about that for a minute. That's really, really deep when you begin to meditate on that. No one ever becomes rich working for someone else. Working for someone else. All your work needs to be for self. Don't look at it on the surface. Go deeper with this. You see, because the richness is already within you. It's not with someone else. Your richness is within you. Self is your riches. Do you understand that, Miss Bahar? I mean, that hit me and I was like, what wisdom? I said, to die for that mother wisdom. Coming from a Little Rascals, I'm sitting there watching Little Rascals. I was like, I love Little Rascals, man. But I'm sitting there watching it, and he said, no one ever become rich working for someone else. You get that, Rabbi Zachariah? That's heavy, isn't it? That's some heavy stuff. That's heavy. But it's true. Look at the millionaires and billionaires today. They didn't get there working for the man. They began to work for themselves. And you can take that on many different levels. I mean, you can peel away the onion at that statement. I told that Kohen, he was like, yep. He was like, yep, that's true. No one ever became wealthy working for someone else. You see, because if you're working for someone else, guess who you making rich? The someone else. Do you get it, Miss Bahar? I tell you, you can take that on many different levels. So our third R is risk. And our Kohen gave me a great lecture this week on, not only lecture, but I'm a watcher and a witness to what happens when you take risk. Yael, woman of 10, saying, without risk there is no reward. You must be willing to risk. You must be willing to think outside of this fictitious, preoccupied reality that you've been conditioned to have. And you got to come think outside of that. And then once you do, the world becomes literally your bucket of Popeye's chicken, or your oyster, or your, cheesecake factory, or your Willy Wonka chocolate factory. You know what I mean? But this is reality. I want the family to make that their reality, is to take risk. I'm in this trade right now and believe me, I'm taking a lot of risk. I mean, one standard lot. I mean, this is not, I'm with the big boys now, Baruch Hashem. And I'm going to hold that trade, come Shiloh or Sheol, and it's going to come into profit. And just for some inside information, remember how I made the statement, is that I control the markets. I'm doing some stuff right now in my visualizations, in my meditations, that is literally controlling the market. So Eddie, it's like all of my trades are coming into profit just when I want them to come into profit, because I already see them in profit. Do you get what I mean, Eddie? So I don't preoccupy myself with some drawdown. You know what I mean? I don't see drawdown. I'm seeing my account double and triple. Baruch Hashem. And I've doubled the account already. And so I'm just going to rinse and repeat, because I know my system works. Now, can you enhance your system? Oh, yes, you can. You can always make improvement on your system, but the core of the system, I will never change. I will never change the core of my system. Sima says, you know that what Kanye West says, to be unthinkable, to look at $3,600 pair of pants. The statement on running for president. Oh, indeed. So you need to take risks, and you see, because your mind, remember I told you about the war? The war is within. And so what your mind and what ego and logic will begin to tell you is like, what the hell are you thinking about? There is no way in hell that you gonna meet whatever blah 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 you trying to do. Why are you wasting your time with that? You see? That's how preoccupied will try to come in. But then you need to take over and begin to occupy the situation. Occupy visualization. You need to come in and take over and say, in the first place, and see, this is all dealing with yourself. You'll say, in the first place, there's no such thing as hell. So you coming to me from a fictitious point of view. I'm real, and I'm a realist. You see how you do that? And this is internal battle. You see, then your mind can't come back with nothing, because you done already disowned hell. You know what I mean? And so that's how it works. You begin to refuel, and remember what I said? Retrain the brain. Another R word. You begin to retrain that brain, Mishpah. And then you see things change. But if you never take action, and you don't learn from your past, and you keep doing the same things over and over again because you don't learn from your past, if in your past you had a broken system with the preoccupied movement, how are you ever going to get to occupy when you keep preoccupying yourself with the same things? Get where we're going? You must retrain the brain. Retrain the brain. Now you're like, well, Rabbi Kefa, what the heck does this have to do with our Torah and the Parsha? Actually, it has everything to do with Torah and our Parsha. It had everything to do with our Torah and our Parsha. You see, because the Hebrews' goal, prize, promise was to occupy a particular land. You know what I said, occupy? Their goal was not to preoccupy themselves with heaven, because they weren't promised heaven. I think we talked about this last year, but I kind of mentioned that a little bit. They weren't promised no heaven, no paradise. They were promised a land, and that they was going to go in and occupy that land, right? The Hebrews was promised that they was going to go in and occupy, because guess what? correct me if I'm wrong, but there was already people in that land. Am I wrong? So, just like you have to do with that internal battle, you got to go in and you got to take control. You got to occupy self. You got to occupy, you got to initiate self and occupy that mind, that logic, that ego. You got to go in and occupy it, take control of it. Do you see the pattern here? It's a whole pattern. Israel literally, the Hebrews literally had to go in and kick some people out. Think about it for a minute. That's what the whole, we're getting ready to get to this big old war where they got to kick some people out. So that they can retrain the brain by what? Taking over the land. They're the new owners. The other people had an opportunity, but their system failed them, didn't it? Remember when I talked about systems? Israel, the land, is only going to be favorable to one system. Are y'all with me? I hope y'all follow this. This is how it ties in. So, your system of reality, reasoning, and risk lines up and is favorable and is accepting to the land of Israel. You see, before we can go back to a physical land, what do we have to deal with? That land mass called the brain first. Retrain the brain. Because Yah forbid the pattern of getting kicked out of the land continues, because it's not going to happen no more. So when you're in the land, you want to stay in the land, and you want to occupy the land. You don't want to be preoccupied with other things that's going to get you kicked out of the land. And that's what Moses was telling the folks here. If you don't see it, one of the greatest lessons that the greatest teacher, the GOAT when it comes to teaching, the greatest of all time, Moses was given to the children of Israel. Because remember, when you look at Numbers chapter 31, verse 2, well, let's start with verse 1 of 31 of Numbers. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, he spoke to Moses, he spoke to Musa, saying, avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward, you shall be gathered up to your people. I think I did a lecture on this, gathered up to your people stuff. Now, if the God of Israel tell, hey, listen, when I leave this life, I'm going to be gathered up to my people. I'm going to say it just like the Master said. I'm not going to no heaven, and I'm not going to no hell. My books tell me, my history tells me, the pattern tells me that I'm going to be gathered to my people. You with me, Mishpachah? So, when preoccupied mind tries to come in and tell you and worry you about some heaven and some hell, you take them right back to our history. And you remind mind, afterward I shall be gathered to my people. You shall be gathered to your people. So Moshe is getting ready to be gathered to his people. Aaron exited the stage left already. Aaron HaKohen. Now soon as Moses' turn. But before that needs to happen, he needs to prep and prepare the people for war. Like our Kohen is prepping and preparing us for war. That internal battle. We're not picking up guns and knives and bazookas and grenades. What are we picking up? We're picking up affirmations. We're picking up visualization. We're picking up all kinds of goodies. We're picking up 72 names. We're picking up 42 names. We're picking up 10 commandments. Do you see? Y'all with me, Mishpachah? We're picking up meditations. Ya'el, woman of 10. Baruch Hashem. And I just placed a big order just the other day, a major order for Pakistan. With all of I call them perfect law essentials. You know, I think ahead. So, you know, with the the holidays coming up here in North America, the Christmas and all that, I'm going to be giving a lot of these out. 10 Commandments to my neighbors, because they see them and they like them. And I say, you know, you can put this in your house, 10 Commandments. They're like, really? So I'm going to be giving all these out to my neighbors and my friends, family members, loved ones, as Christmas gifts for them, for their Christmas. Put it in your house. These are the 10 Commandments in Hebrew. Oh, in Hebrew? Oh, wow. That's cool. I always like to think ahead. I understand the value. I understand the value of the life that I live, as you described it as life. Some of you described it as the Torah. It's important to you. You see. This is very, very important for us to understand. Yahya woman says, oh, is that your personal order? Yes and no. It goes both ways. If some of the mishpachah want to reach out, I can just place another order. It's no problem. But these are some tests right now. I'm going to see how long it's going to take to come from Pakistan. So I'm just weighing all this in as well. But there are some new, I tell you, there's some things that I ordered that I tell you that Hakohen and his student over there are doing that must-haves for my house, for my houses, and for the people that I, hold near and dear to me as well. Christians, Muslims, don't matter to me. Because you know why? I know how to reason. I reason very well. So I'm friends with all. Those that believe in source and those that don't have any belief in source. So, yeah, there's a lot of great things coming down the pipe for you listening via YouTube and live as well. These weapons that are essential. I guess you can call them like perfect law ammunition. They're like essential in your development, in your growth, and essential in your success, essential in your system, whatever your system may be. Baruch Hashem. However you alter your system to meet your particular comfort mode. Because get this, Chokmah told me she's here to give me comfort. So I need to be comfortable, right? So the system needs to fit me to my comfort level. Do you get it? Mother Wisdom is there to comfort you, not for you to complain, but for comfort. So you get in the system that's comfortable for you, and you find that place. Me, I pulled a lot of different mentors. I took some of their things and I put them all together, and now I have this system that's like, wow. Like one of my mentors says all the time, one of my Forex mentors, he says, you got the keys. He says it like that. He says, you got the keys. And this man came out of prison with I forget, he said they give you a couple of dollars coming out of prison to get you where you're going. Now he's a millionaire. Ex-con. Did some prison time. Now, this day he's a mentor and a millionaire, and he's teaching people how to do the same. So, Ruth, it doesn't matter where you, beginner, chicken dinner. I already see you on top of the mountain. You may say beginner, but I see you in my world, in my reality, you already at the top of the mountain because you're Israel. I'm going to always be a child of the Most High. I'm going to always be a student of the Most High, student of Rabbi Simon out there. Always learning. And always with the reality and the reasoning that I can learn something from anybody. If I can learn something to get revelation from a Little Rascals movie, then believe me, my receptors of learning can go to from any. I can learn from a rock. Rock is energy. And I have a lot of them in my house. I can learn from a rock. Because my reality says so. Baruch Hashem. So, we need to consider these tools that we're going to need. So, getting back to our Torah and our Parsha, Moses is telling them, look at verse 3 of Numbers 31. And Moshe spoke to the people saying, arm some of yourselves to the war, and let them go against the Midianites and avenge Yahweh of Midian. Baruch Hashem. Remember I told you, there's a time when reasoning is thrown out of the window. Because for reasoning, it takes two sides to reason, you see. But when two sides can't come together, sometimes you just got to put the gloves on, right? And go to war. And this was not just any war, this was a big war. 5 kings were taken down, including Balaam, or Bilam, however you want to say his name. He was taken down as well. This was a major, major war. Major, major battle. A lot of bloodshed, Mishpah. Look at Numbers chapter 31, verse 6. Now, I'm just telling you how our scrolls say. The children of Israel were avenging Yahweh. This is revenge, man. Another R word. Look at Numbers chapter 31, verse 6. And Moshe and Moses sent them to war, 1,000 of every tribe, them and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the Kohen, the priest, to the war with the holy instruments and the shofarim to blow in his hand. The weapons of our warfare aren't carnal. That's real. That verse just came to my mind. Look at verse 13. And Moshe, see that this war went on. Now, when you go into war with the Kohanim, with the holy instruments, and the shofarim leader, listen. How many of you want to know the statistics on wars won and lost when we went to the war with the Kohanim? Anybody know? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me what are the statistics of us fighting wars when we have the shofarim, the Kohanim, our holy instruments going before us? I want to say 100%. Never lost a battle. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of revelation right now, because the revelation's coming into me. I haven't lost a battle going to war under the guidance and instruction of Rabbi Simon Adler. I haven't lost. I've gone from strength to strength to strength. I have not lost a battle yet. What does that tell you? I can't speak for you guys, but I'm speaking for myself. I mean strategic battles. One of them is right here in my base with me now. To take a woman out of communist China who had no rights and privileges to leave the country because she didn't meet their quote-unquote standard for being able to go out and travel outside of the country. And for her to be in America today is no less than a miracle, or I would say no less than what I desired for myself. That's what I wanted. I went to war with communist China and won. Now, if you look at what's going on today, what are the chances of anybody coming from China to America and living here? I would submit to you slim to none, with the condition of what we see in our face today. This was a strategic battle that was fought, and I won it. And I'm not here to brag, and I say it in all humility, but just to show you that when you equip with the right tools, there's nothing. Communist China, the second biggest country in the world. Well, actually, I think they're the first. I think India's second. That nothing can't be done. Think about that, Mishpah. When you with the Kohen, now, if you're out here in Israel and you don't have the shofarim blowing before you, you don't have the holy instruments, your chances of success at war are probably slim to none. And that's what we see going on all around us, of the people that wave the banner of the Torah as they go to war. And they're being defeated after defeated after defeated. They're not going strength to strength to strength to strength to strength. They're going weakness to weakness, destruction to destruction to destruction, failure to failure to failure. Why? It's because they're not following the system. Israel, children of Israel, we have a system. Some of us are still understanding it and growing in it, and so be it. I'm still understanding and growing in it, because I'm going to grow from strength to strength to strength. But it's so beautiful to be in it, in the system, and actually seeing the system work for you. I don't have to make changes. I just have to make additions to the system. I'm not changing the system. The system is just getting better. And I see that in every facet, every area of my life. Going back to the Torah. So we see this war getting ready to take place. The smackdown on the Midianites. Now, if any of you know your history, do you know, okay, we look at the geography. Where was this war actually taking place? If you look at the lines of the map today, the Torah gives us little guidance and instruction on what area of the world this was in. But I'll just tell you outright, this is the area of what today would be like Jordan. The country Jordan. Now, how many of you, men, or women for that matter, you've ever seen Jordanian women? Anybody? These are some of the most beautiful women in the world. How many of you would agree with me? They are some of the most beautiful women in the world in Jordan. Any of you ever seen any? On TV? Maybe you want to Google some? Especially you men. I'm telling you, these are some of the most beautiful women in the world. Jordanian women. Very, very beautiful. Perfect face. Eyes that are just stunning. Some of the most beautiful women in the world, Jordanian women. Let's get back to the war, and you'll see why I'm saying this in a minute. Okay, the war has finished. And of course, you know we laid the smackdown on it because we just talked about it. Our ratio of winning wars with, we have the Kohanim, the holy instruments, the Shapharim go before us, is 100%. We don't lose. Look at Numbers chapter 31, verse 13. And Moshe and Eleazar, the Kohen, and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them outside the camp. War is done. Soldiers are coming back. Talked about all the soldiers, the army of the Most High. The Hebrews going to war here, taking their revenge, avenging what was done to them. Look at verse 14. And Musa, was very angry with the officers of the host, with the captains over thousands, with the captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. Okay, wait a minute. You just won this big battle. You just kicked, you kicked some donkey backside. You just kicked some ass. And Moses is upset. He's angry. What's really going on? Look at verse 15. And Moshe said to them, have you rescued all the women alive? Now, remember, I just talked about the Jordanian women being some of the most beautiful women in the world. Still are to this day. Beautiful women over there. Now, Moses, they just fought this battle. Moses comes to them and asks them this question. Have you rescued all the women alive? Have you saved all the women? Look at verse 16. Behold, listen, now Moses is giving them the history lesson. You see, remember we talked about earlier? Hey, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the past. Learn from it. Moses, he's giving this lecture to the children of Israel before he goes to be with his fathers. Verse 16 of Numbers chapter 31. Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against Yahweh in the manner of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yahweh. How soon do you forget what happened? The reason why we got into this big problem and having this war was because of these women. And now you're going to bring these women right back in again? My goodness. Have we not learned our lesson? Have we not learned from our history? Have we not learned from our experiences? Does this kind of bring anything to mind, Mishpah, for our lives? Have we not learned from our experiences? You have that broken system, yet you're still playing the same old broken system and thinking the system's still going to work for you when it's been broken and proven to be broken time and time again in your experiences? Now, I told you this was like a really bad war. I mean, a lot of death, a lot of bloodshed. Look at verse 17. Now, therefore, kill every male amongst the little ones, and kill every woman that has known man by laying with them. You see, you have to get to the point where you face reality, and reasoning is thrown out the window, and for history not to repeat itself, you have to totally go in, take ownership, and totally occupy and control the situation. Don't leave little seeds of, let's just say, little seeds of another R word, remix, to come back in. You want to remix and play the story all over again? No, you got to crush it, squash it in your war, in your battle. Moses goes on to say, but all the female children, in verse 18 of 31 of Numbers, but all the female children that have not known man by laying with them, keep them alive for yourself. You see, things that are tainted in your life, you have to rid yourself of those things. And you only know what was tainted and your experiences. Because when you hang on to this tainted, whatever it may be, that you know, experience, event in your life, and you just hang on to it, it'll come back up, and like I said, the remix or fester itself back up, or it's like cancer. You give it an opportunity to grow again and metastasize. You don't want to do that. So you want to squash any attempt. You see, you want to go in and occupy it. You want to go in and own it. You want to go in and make it new. Not come in and bring in the old with it. This is why we always say leave your baggage at the door. On this journey, leave your baggage at the door and go with some new baggage. Believe me, when he left America, he didn't leave with the same baggage that he had when he left the last time. He brought in new baggage. He brought in new items. He brought new things to take with him. He didn't bring the same old mumbo jumbo he took the last time he went back home to the place of his birth, Bukashem. And so we don't need to do the same thing, family. We need to start new and fresh. Don't try to kindle something old and dirty and that has negative connotation in your life. You don't want to bring that back up. Because now you have a new reasoning. You have the peace about you. You have a new reality that you are what? That you are altering for yourself. For yourself. For self. Baruch Hashem. Because now you have that connectivity with self. Baruch Hashem. And it's beautiful. And it is wonderful. Indeed it is wonderful. So, this is what we must consider going forward. Is that this battle took place, and that the same thing that caused a lot of children to die, no, not a lot of children, but a lot of men of the children of Israel to die, and the pattern is still the same to this day. Man's biggest kryptonite, if not money, is woman. I'm telling you that right now. If it's not money, because they don't properly have that great relationship with money, or their reality of how they see money is not respected. You see, you got to have a great respect for money and a relationship with money in such a way that money will want to come back to you and not want to leave you. And that's what I got from my Queen's lecture as well, is that you have to carry yourself. There's a certain way that you carry yourself so that you can attract money to you, for all of you who want to be rich with money. There's a certain way that you have to carry yourself if you want to attract a good relationship to you. You gotta have that certain way of carrying yourself to attract a relationship to you. Who's gonna want to attract to you in a relationship if you look like you just got out of bed, didn't brush your teeth, hair all over the place? Wow, that's attractive. But yet you want the likeness of a Denzel to show up at your door in an Amazon box. But you look like you just got out of bed. That's not going to work. So you have to already, and I always say this in the lecture, is that we have to already act like we have what we're trying to attract. Act like you have what you're trying to attract. That's on the Mokma. So you need to act like you already have it. That means your appearance. You need to fix your appearance. If that's what you want a relationship, then you need to you want $1 million, then you need to act and look like $1 million. You need to carry yourself like $1 million. Well, how do I do that? Then you go and study and you look at these biographies and documentaries of millionaires. And begin to act just like it. Millionaire mindset, billionaire mindset. You want the best relations? Look at the people who have good relationships and then begin to act like you have a good relationship with the person of the opposite sex, or however you get down these days. This is what's important to understand, Mr. Hall. You see, that's what you call altering your reality. But I would tell you to guard against preoccupied movement coming in and your mind filling you up with all these things that are of no relevance. All these things that you in your reality don't want to take control of as you begin to occupy. Rid yourself of the things that were causing your bad situations in the first place. You got to rid yourself of those things. Like Moses was telling the children of Israel, hey, these people, they got to die. Otherwise, these things will come back on you and haunt you like a haunting. And they will weigh you down and they'll become real heavy on you. And they'll prevent you from having all of the highs in life because you're too preoccupied with dealing with old trash that should have been put in the dumpster, or like they say in the UK, in the bin a long time ago. So I'm going to recap in my closing with my 3 R's that are life-changing: reality, reasoning, and risk. Take the risk. Take risk. Take big risk. Get big rewards. Take risk, and I would encourage you in your reasoning to have the patience along with the peace. Be patient. Be patient. And continue to work your system. And continue to add additions to your system to improve your system to make it better. But don't change your system. These 3 things. And, I really want to stress risk. I didn't talk about it a lot because when it comes to risk, there's nothing to talk about. Now, what Moses did with the children of Israel here is he told them, look, man, this is risky you bringing all these women here. They got to die because it's risky in you missing the opportunity of having that land that's been promised to you. You just can't keep repeating the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity. Last time I checked. So don't be insane like a membrane. Nope. You need to what? Retrain the brain. So, reality, reasoning, and risk are the 3 R's. I would encourage you this 6 days of labor to go out and take some risk. Go out outside of how you are thinking things are going to work out and take some risk. Go out and take some risk. Feel uncomfortable. That's when you know you're taking risk. You feel like, ooh, it's a little bit uncomfortable here. But take that risk and then believe in your reality. And it will be. But you gotta, you can't sit here in your reality and never take any risk. You must take the risk. See, the risk help you. Risk is almost like what they call faith. You have to take action for your reality to come into being. You know what I mean? Be risk takers. And it will pay you big dividends. Believe in your risk. Don't just take a risk just based on, oh, well, I don't really think. No, when you take your risk, you believe in it. You believe. Come Shiloh or Sheol. How you envision it, how you script it, how you imagine it, how you dream it, is how it's going to be. And the rest is commentary, Mr. Hart. So on that note, we'll wrap it up for the Shabbat. And I'll say shalom, shalom, and Shabbat shalom to all of you. I want you all to have a great 6 days of labor ahead as we keep moving forward and doing our system, Baruch Hashem. All praises be to the Most High. Is there any questions? For those of you who may be interested, we got some sigils coming out. I tell you what, I can't wait to get my hands on them. And I can send you pictures of them if you're kind of interested in the sigils. I can put you on a waiting list, and I can send pictures to you if you kind of want these sigils for your house. It's going to bring abundance. That can bring protection against any diseases and things like this. We have some great sigils coming out as well. Looking forward to my order coming in. And but for those of you who may be interested, you can reach out to me via email, and we can definitely make that happen. These sigils, I tell you, they're beautiful. They're beautiful, but more importantly, they're powerful. You know, they're sigils with a purpose, and they have a purpose behind them, and that's to help you be successful in this life, and not waiting and be preoccupied being successful in the world to come. That's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. That's preventing your stumbling block. That's preventing you from occupying now. Our books tell us that what? We have dominion over this earth now, not somewhere in the by and by. And as you see from this parsha, the Hebrews were promised not heaven, they were promised a land flowing with milk and honey. Think about that. They were promised real estate. Think about that. That's another business that I'm going to be quite successful in as well, that I am successful in. Real estate. So think about that going forward. So don't be looking for some fictitious. No, you want some land that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can draw borders around. Baruch Hashem. That's how it's going down for Israel. Going down with great success and all humility. I'm not here to be braggadocious, but I'm here to bring you some reality to this world. So we give thanks always. So I leave and I love you in the mighty hands of the Most High. Have a great 6 days of labor ahead. I say Shabbat Shalom. And shalom, shalom to y'all, Mishpah. Have a wonderful week ahead.